Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Microsoft Operations Management Suite webinar, subtitled Improve Operational Excellence with OMS Insights and Analytics. I'm your host today, Aaron Calloway. I'm the Cloud Solutions Director at CloudScale Corporation. My team is in charge of deploying the Operations Management Suite and other Azure tools. I'm also joined by our CEO and founder, Stephen Costigan. We have a lot of great content to share with you guys. As people start to trickle in here, I do want to take care of a few housekeeping items. We are going to start the presentation first with a general introduction to Operations Management Suite. Next, we want to spotlight the Azure Logging Services, which will enable your organization to realize deep insights across hybrid clouds and SaaS environments. And then finally, we'll discuss how OMS can enable you to quickly remediate issues in your environment and realize improved service levels. So a couple of the housekeeping items that I was speaking of before. The Q&A, we will do our best to leave time for Q&A at the end of the webinar. It's potentially we won't have that time. Everybody's on mute, but please feel free to drop questions into the webinar tool. There's a little area there that allows you to drop questions in there. We can follow up with you on those questions post-webinar as we have your information, the information that you provided to register. Also, you can email us your questions at info@cloudscalecorp.com, and we can follow up via email as well. We do have a special offer for webinar attendees only. We'll share that with you at the end of the session, so please stay tuned for that. We will also be sending out the slides, recorded webinar playback, and webinar special offers to the attendees post-webinar. Without further ado, I'd like to pass it off to our next presenter, again, our founder and CEO, Stephen Costigan. Stephen is a former employee who spent almost a decade at Microsoft, moving companies from on-premises platforms to Office 365 and Azure, and who has been working with customers as a business transformation architect for more than 10 years. Take it away, Stephen.
Thank you, Aaron. And I'm really excited to be here today to share CloudScale's message, which is largely centered around Microsoft's Operations Management Suite. But really shaping this conversation is a concept that CloudScale is truly passionate about, which is the democratization of information. Data, as you've probably all heard, is the new oil, and organizations are collecting as much as they can because they know that gaining more insight is one of the keys to digital transformation. The Operations Management Suite enables organizations to collect, democratize information for pretty much any platform and really any device, and correlate that information in any way via any user experience the organization can envision and design. Today, we're going to discuss that key democratizer, which is called Azure Log Analytics. It's really the foundational component of OMS, and it's how you can gain insight and drive operational transformation through the data that it collects. So next, I'm just going to talk about a little bit about who CloudScale is, and then we'll move right into the presentation. Amazing digital experiences are not just delivered through the interface. So when we say we're a company that delivers amazing digital user experiences, it's not something that's just done through the actual interface, like a traditional UI or UX project. It really comes in all forms, from more secure Windows 10 environments to better collaboration tools like Teams, to beautifully designed business intelligence dashboards, to solutions like OMS that are tailored to deliver intelligent, correlated information specific to stakeholder groups in the organization. We really believe that if you deliver an elegant user experience that's secure and reliable, you're naturally driving digital transformation, and the cloud has its advantages when it comes to realizing digital and operational transformation. The first is speed. So we're going to talk a little bit about the ideologies for shifting investments to the cloud in terms of cloud and on-premises management. And really, the first one is, like I was saying before, speed. The ability to spin up entire application environments in minutes versus hours, faster remediation of infrastructure and application issues, and a real-time innovation capability. The second is flexibility. Really the flexibility to connect to existing infrastructure and services and really seamlessly share data across the organization and driving more intelligence and insight regardless of being on premises or in the cloud. And then the last is simplicity, the ability to shift investments and focus away from hardware and operating system level management and to the application and service level. All of these benefits really represent the ideologies and the reasons, at least at a high level for moving to the cloud in terms of systems management. Another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was kind of that move from the traditional to the cloud management model. Organizations today are really facing a lot of challenges in how they manage traditional on-premises and cloud models. In the traditional on-premises model, teams need tools to manage all types of infrastructure. I was speaking with a customer recently who had upwards of 256 individual management and monitoring tools in-house. And that's a pretty common story for enterprise organizations. And in the mid-market, you're probably looking at 10 to 20 different tools on average inside of the organization to accomplish a single goal, which is to drive operational excellence across the infrastructure and the applications. In the cloud world, which is this new thing that's appeared, you really need to be able to support business teams that expect developers to be business facing with the ability to quickly innovate using microservices and new models for application development. There's a whole other paradigm in terms of application monitoring, application management. Servers are really becoming less and less relevant. Containerization, PaaS is really the future. And the ability to orchestrate and deliver a DevOps toolchain that spans both the cloud and the applications, on-premises, cloud infrastructure, hybrid infrastructure is truly needed. So we want to introduce the Microsoft Operations Management Suite, which is really an all-in-one hybrid cloud management solution for any enterprise to manage and help protect their workloads and applications on AWS, on Azure, Windows Server or Linux, VMware or OpenStack in the most cost-effective way. OMS provides control over virtually any hybrid cloud without any infrastructure overhead at all. It really transforms the information overload that most organizations experience into valuable business insights with automation, backup and disaster recovery, and security. It is really the fastest, most cost-effective way to meet the business challenges that we discussed and accommodate updated workloads and applications running on Windows Server or Linux. Deep insight into every aspect of the infrastructure, that is really what we're trying to achieve here and what we're going to discuss today and show you at a very high level how you can achieve that. OMS gives IT the opportunity to increase efficiency and take action to drive performance results. Taking advantage of the flexibility of cloud deployment, OMS offers log analytic capabilities that we were discussing before. Again, this is the foundation of OMS. It's the platform service that integrates into everything in your environment, in cloud or on-prem, and really enables you to collect and analyze machine data from virtually any source. Okay, we're talking all the way down to switch and anything that you can collect, syslog information from, that's included. So you really get, pretty much everything in the scope of this data collection service. Using data generated across devices, operating systems, workloads, and user actions, OMS provides instant access to critical information through one integrated console. You can troubleshoot across multiple data sources. You can easily identify the root cause of operational and security issues. Armed with increased visibility and insight about your environment, you can take a better informed action, and you can provide that insight to multiple stakeholder groups, from developers to business executives, in a simple and easy to consume way. With a large distributed and dynamic environment, it's really time consuming and error prone to conduct configuration and remediation tasks against thousands of nodes and instances. OMS automation capabilities enable you to automate all those frequent, time-consuming, and error-prone cloud management tasks with precision. With its simple and reliable cloud integrated backup and recovery solutions, OMS can protect important applications and workloads no matter where they reside. This is a multi-part webinar series, so we just want to state that. And today what we're going to be really focused in on is that logging and analytics solution, again, the foundation of this platform, and that's why we've highlighted the monitor section of this lifecycle management slide. So with all that said, I'm going to hand this back to Aaron, who's going to cover operational excellence with Insight Analytics and really go a little bit deeper on the monitoring aspect of this conversation.
Yeah, you guys can see from, thanks, Stephen. You guys can see from the modern IT management lifecycle diagram that we show here that the monitoring portion is the one that's highlighted. Like Stephen said, multi-part. This is the one we're going to focus on today. We have three core focus areas on this particular portion that we'd like to dive deep on, or at least deep enough to gain an understanding on what does it mean to monitor in today's modern IT management world, right? And the first one being simple and unified experience being a very important one. So today's challenges include, entities or enterprises having on-premises data centers that contain application data, platform data, network data, security data. They have multiple platforms. They have a diverse set of platforms on premises. And they also have, in today's world of hybrid IT, they might have data in Azure or platforms in Azure. They might have, some VMs in AWS, but some in Azure. Maybe they're using some of Google Cloud Platforms, PaaS or IaaS solutions. Whatever the case may be, a bunch of them have third-party hosters as well. So with all this data dispersed globally, a diversified set of platforms being adopted, maybe not going forward, but at least maybe there's previous executive management in information technology at any of these enterprises that had, chosen a path, and then they've changed their path along the way and started putting data in other places. In this hybrid cloud world, we have so many different places to place our data, so many different platforms to utilize. And what challenge that creates is the fact that where do we put it? The big question mark is where do we surface all this data? And that's what we're going to talk about. So a solution for that is bringing that all together in a simple and unified experience. That's why this chapter is called Simple and Unified Experience. We have our platform and application monitoring, which is an important piece of any type of IT shop, essentially. Security analysis, and then we have network monitoring. These might all be things monitored by the same team. They might be all kinds of things that are monitored by different teams within any type of enterprise IT organization. What we're trying to drive here is IT operational excellence and correlated contextual insights, and we can get that help by adopting the OMS platform and using that simple and unified experience that it is intended to do. So this slide I like to call expand your enterprise management with a consistent experience. Again, we want a single platform for overall management. That means a single pane of control, a unified experience. But we also want to leverage our existing management platforms. The thing is with today's world, we're stuck in this scenario where we might have had our data, we might have adopted multiple platforms, we might have had data in other different various locations, and we're maybe not in position, either budget-wise or time-wise, to move between those platforms at this time to give ourselves a unified experience. Or maybe there's certain business requirements or business compliance requirements that require us to stay on a specific platform or require our data to reside in specific places. So in order to drive this adoption successfully in any organization, or at least in most organizations, you're most likely going to have to at one point leverage your existing management platform, right? And what we were going to do is leverage that existing management platform by integrating with existing system and connecting with isolated resources. And then the other thing is access anywhere with a consistent user experience, but we'll get to that So let's talk about single platform for overall management. Again, we want a single pane of control for log analytics, automation, backup, site recovery, security, etc. Right? There's all kinds of different like logs. There's all kinds of different interfaces we have to interact with to achieve the utmost efficacy in IT operational excellence. We also want a unified experience to manage your resources in public, whether it's public cloud, private cloud, or traditional data centers, right? And especially in an era where we have high turnover in IT, or we are constantly training or ramping up engineers, a unified experience is important. Next, we're going to go into leverage existing management platform, right? So again, what I said was we're probably not always in a position as an enterprise or an IT organization to change platforms whenever we feel like it. It could be costly. It could be a reduction in productivity during a certain period of time during that migration. It can also require resources that you may not have in-house, or expensive external resources. Our primary goal on this particular slide is to get the point across that we do not want to rip and replace. We do not want to rip and replace by leveraging your management platform such as System Center or Nagios. We want the operations management suite gateway to be used to connect with the isolated environment, right?
Exactly. And again, OMS at a high level is a set of capabilities in Azure, but the logging and analytics service is really unbelievable in terms of its flexibility in connecting and collecting information, really democratizing that information from your application services, your servers, both on premises and in the cloud.
Absolutely. Next, we're going to talk about access anywhere with consistent user experience. Not just with OMS, but a primary driver of a lot of cloud platforms is ubiquitous access. The ability to access and control and manipulate data or configuration settings or whatever the case may be from any device in a device-driven world, a device-first world even, you could argue. We want the ability to control and manipulate these platforms using our phones, right? Whether that's iOS, so whether that's an iPhone or iPad, whether we're using an Android phone, or like your Samsung phone with an Android interface, or it's let's say an Android tablet. A lot of people still use those. Additionally, Windows phone. Or a Surface, whatever the case may be, whatever your device is, that ubiquitous access, the ability to access it on the go, is very, very important in today's cloud-first world. And again, this is a re-emphasis on the single platform or the unified, experience, but that consistent user interface across the OMS and Azure services is key. And Microsoft's spending a lot of time bringing those all together, bringing those interfaces together, not having 8 different portals to go to. It's simplifying that experience, therefore making I'd call it the learning curve more gradual versus a very sharp learning curve that was maybe arguably previously how it was.
And I'll add to that a little bit more. So just kind of back to the importance of having a platform that can collect data from multiple data sources, but not only democratizing information, providing a user experience that's consistent, but also the ability to create a user experience that really speaks to multiple audiences. So OMS is not the type of platform that is totally boxed and what you see is what you get. It has both the ability to connect to Power BI so that you can create custom executive dashboards, or DevOps dashboards, whatever groups you may identify that need to see information. You can create tailored views for those individuals. But on top of that, if that's not enough, all of these services that we're going to go through in this webinar series have open APIs that you can connect to in order to pull information into your own visual experiences. So if you have monitoring applications today that are already built in your network operations center or wherever it may be, you can actually pull the data from this logging and analytics collection data source in the cloud that's collecting all of your information and user activity across the entire infrastructure. And you can visualize that in any way you want in any application that you select. It's just simply API calls and data storage models that, you know, obviously are efficient enough to serve your existing application. And that is awesome.
Absolutely.
I mean, in my opinion.
Yes, of course. That
All right, here we
actually
go.
segues really well into our next core area that we're covering today, and that is gain immediate insight. And what does gain immediate insight mean? Again, you'll see the same the same diagram on the left that you saw in our previous chapter, or previous module, if you will, being that our challenges remain the same. We still have platform and application monitoring. We still require security analysis. We still require network monitoring. All those things still exist. Those are challenges for any modern IT organization or any enterprise IT organization. But now we've brought this, you know, this data together in the middle diagram that you see. All that data is kind of grouped together now in a single interface. But what about the business owners? What about the application owners? What about the infrastructure owners? They can't all have the same view, right? If I'm a business owner, do I really care, you know, how much processor utilization is being used on one of my on-premises servers? I really don't. I don't care about the on-premise server having memory issues either, unless I'm a really nosy business owner and I happen to be technical enough to understand what that means. So how do we solve that? And there's an easy solution to that in OMS, and that is there's a custom view, or View Designer is actually the name of it. And View Designer, what it allows us to do is take all that data and slice it up and show just the show custom views that are just applicable to those particular set of users or a particular user. And so we break this down. We have the same amount of data, but notice how we have business owners that have one set of data to look at. Okay, what's the population density in my micro segment, right?
Yep. And again, I'll just interject here that this business owner is actually consuming this through Power BI,
right,
which can connect directly to OMS data.
Right, which actually loops back to Stephen's point earlier about those APIs being very connectable, right? Ease. There's a lot of ease in that configuration. Application owners. Look at the application owners like, well, I only own this particular application, so I'm only worried about security and compliance on my SQL assessment, availability and business continuity. Maybe I just want to know how many users are using it, what's my active use on this application. Well, those are the type of statistics that they care about only, right? Still, we're not to the point where we care about processor utilization, memory utilization, you know, latency, RPC latency calls. Network utilization, NIC information, things of that nature are still completely ignored. That it wouldn't mean anything to these individuals until we get to the final individual in our final use case, which is the infrastructure owner. The infrastructure owner is like, well, how many errors have been raised? What's the Hyper-V host CPU performance? Am I running out of resources on my Hyper-V host? Are we underperforming on these applications? Are they slow to surface because because I'm running out of resources, or I have resource contention? Those infrastructure owners they only care about that particular set of data, right? They don't care about how many people are visiting the site unless it's relevant to perf or event outages. So these log viewers and these custom log designers that are available are extremely helpful for slicing up that data, splicing it up in a way that only the relevant data is shown to those particular groups or departments.
And I'll also add to this, one of the other amazing things that OMS does out of the box is it correlates incidents, and it enables you to actually troubleshoot events versus deal with thousands of incidents and get overwhelmed by that, both from a monitoring and view perspective, but also from a help desk perspective. So when you think about the operational challenges of trying to understand where there's an actual event occurring and what that event is versus an incident, thousands of incidents that make up that event, OMS helps you kind of break through that fog and categorize things into events, like your application infrastructure is down in some area versus your SQL servers throwing an event. singular event, right? OMS will help correlate that into the application environment outage and let people know proactively, hey, this particular application or this particular application infrastructure is having issues. So make sure your users are up to speed that their app might be, experiencing reduced performance.
Right.
And we'll talk about, more of the automation side of this thing later. But I was just going to insert a little, statement around. You can also auto remediate the issue with OMS, and that's a really powerful capability. But again, going back to someone looking at thousands of events is not as efficient at correlating those thousands of incidents is not as efficient at identifying what the actual issue is as the machine learning that's built into OMS, which will automatically correlate the incidents or issues that are happening in the application or server infrastructure into events.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to expand a little bit on the gain immediate insight. So we want to provide an immediate insight for your hybrid environment based on trusted sources, right? And this breaks down to 3 different areas. The first being quick data collection. And that's in today's day and age, it's imperative that we have automatic data collection. In this scenario, we're dropping an agent and literally telling it which logs to pull from versus, going into an MMC console in our, in our previous iterations of Microsoft, server software stack, and going in and maybe dumping an event log and then gathering them, putting it on a USB drive or a network share or something like that. We're talking about gathering that automatically, right? So quick data collection, custom log collection, meaning like maybe it's not just syslogs or event logs. Maybe we also need the logs from, an application such as IIS. Like maybe I want to grab IIS logs because my web app runs on IIS. I can actually create a custom log collection and bring that together and actually interface and show that and create alerts around that. So quick data collection being an important part of gaining immediate insight. The second one being experienced sources of insight. So a single source of the truth, which is something that IT organizations have struggled with since the beginning of time, essentially. Let's say you have servers all over the place. They all have different sets of logs. You're logging into servers 1 through 24, trying to check each one of them for, specific log problems or specific issues or events that you find in the logs or the event viewer. We want a single source of truth. Bringing that all together gives you the immediate insight that you need that can be provided through OMS and that single unified, experience that we are speaking of prior. So experience and trusted insight is an important piece of this. Also, analyze petabytes of data from the cloud and control that from anywhere with a consistent user experience. Again, a lot of emphasis here on the ubiquitous access and the consistent user experience for that kind of next gen feel of IT operational excellence. Quick data collection, again, automatic endpoint data selection and collection, custom log collection, including Windows and Linux. I touched on that already. The experience sources of insight, again, single source of truth, whether you're gathering data from your public cloud, your private cloud, your traditional data centers in this new hybrid world. Some of you guys on the call might be running just a private cloud. Maybe you're cloud only. Maybe you have a traditional data center. Everybody's in, or every enterprise essentially is in a different place within their cloud journey. Wherever you are, OMS can kind of custom tailor to that in a real way that I don't even almost want to call it custom tailoring because of the ease of setup. It just really doesn't require that much, but it's custom tailored in the way that it's agnostic to where you're at in your cloud journey.
I will add just another point here. Imagine the ability to have unlimited upgrades to a SCOM environment or unlimited upgrades to a system center platform, really no cost to the system center up, from an upgrade perspective, no cost to actually get the latest and greatest things and features and capabilities for the system center suite. I'm not saying that you get that with OMS, but what I am saying is that OMS itself receives updates from the product group. The product groups that build the software, like all of the on-premises software from a Microsoft perspective, AD, the Active Directory capabilities, Exchange, Windows Server, whatever it may be, are releasing feature packs into OMS that you can utilize, that are built from from a best practices perspective. You can utilize and deploy in your OMS environment to analyze your infrastructure. So you really get that best of breed Microsoft built solution package to monitor and respond to things that are going on in your environment. And those are included inside of OMS.
Yeah, and you get to correlate and analyze all this data. And it doesn't matter who's viewing it, whether it's a product team, a support team, your in-house IT, an InfoSec team, any kind of event, any issue that's happened, you can correlate and analyze all this data together in a much more much easier, much more perusable way than ever possible prior. So analyze petabytes of data from the cloud, infrastructure free, management as a service model, on-the-fly metrics aggregation, Power BI integration, like you saw before when we zoomed in on our gain immediate insight slide and in the custom log viewer designer. You got to see some of that Power BI integration sampling. There's a lot more of that we've done for some of our current clients. We want to move on to our last chapter here, our third core area, which is fast troubleshooting and auto remediate. So again, we have the same diagram with our challenges of having to have platform and application monitoring taken care of, having security analysis available, having networking monitoring available. And the problem right now is there's too many alerts. It can be unclear with remediation or how to remediate. You just have all these all these alerts from all these different platforms, and regardless of whether it's a layer 4 device or it's a layer 7 application, whatever the case may be, all those alerts are coming in, and your NOC may not be trained on all these alerts, and you might not have let's say you don't have these KBs available to troubleshoot those logs, and there's nothing on Google to figure out, or Bing, a quick Bing search or Google search, you can't find anything. There's no run books available and things of that nature. So how do we solve that? We work with filtering these alerts, and you gain that professional knowledge. You can filter out alerts that may just be noise. There's a lot of ways to do this in OMS. There's an entire alert section. I hope to cover that on one of our webinars coming up, since this is a multi-part series. We get to filter the alerts however we choose on any of these different platforms now, even if it's not native to that platform, because OMS can do it, right? So filtering those alerts, then creating specific search alerts. And it says right here, professional knowledge, you gain that professional knowledge with working it. And then you also, it's community based, right? So you'll be able to compare those with different forums and things of that nature. And you get to gain more insight into your environment and the different errors that are coming up or reoccurring, and solve that problem.
Exactly. So you're essentially crowdsourcing the analysis of the alerts that are coming out of your environment. I want to just talk about the filtering a little bit more, and the importance of filtering, because there's a couple of different licensing models for OMS, but the logging analytics solution is a kind of egress kind of thing, and ingress egress, I believe it is. And so it's a per gigabyte charge after 5 gigs of ingestion. And so it is very important from an information architecture perspective to look at what you're trying to achieve, right? And kind of reverse engineer that back into your environment, and then build a filtering structure, which is going to optimize pricing for the organization. So that's something that CloudScale is very proficient at, and we do for all of our customers.
Absolutely. So we got 3 core areas to cover under this particular section of fast troubleshooting and auto remediation. We want to solve issues as quickly as possible in an automated fashion to improve your SLA. I think we can all agree to that, right? First of all, we like as little issues as possible. We like early detection, obviously, but we also have SLAs to meet. Any IT organization that adheres to an ITIL model has an SLA, and I think we all can agree that we want to minimize downtime. Our goal, I'm sure, is to eliminate downtime. But the first one is identify root cause with powerful search. So we have alert notifications, we have powerful search tools to go through to check out all that, to check out all our alerts, to check out all our events. And these search capabilities the search capabilities surfacing here is an example of that kind of search first world that is created in this cloud first world. And so you'll see more and more of these cloud platforms going to search first. You search for something first. If you can't find it, then maybe you go through some kind of organized structure of folders or areas in a graphic user interface. But search first, right? Community-based automation is the second main portion here. So leverage the PowerShell community for automating via PowerShell-based runbooks. People are out there creating PowerShell-based runbooks, PowerShell scripts that are automatically triggered when that alert fires that can resolve that issue, right? They know which issue it is. Maybe it's just restarting one service. Oh, we're having, error 517. Well, error 517 empirically always means that, the IIS, an IIS reset must be performed on that box, and then that error will clear, and then that application will be available to, for example. So maybe there's a PowerShell-based runbook out there that you can have that alert once it fires, you have that automatically kick off a PowerShell script that resolves that particular issue, right? And then auto remediate being the final one. Leverage automation from the cloud, connect existing alerts to auto remediate. So again, just a little bit of a re-emphasis here. We want to identify root cause with powerful search. So like I said, search first world. All this information that we collect is essentially indexed in a way that we'll be able to search against, right? And in the next few portions in our series, we can go over some of those things where we can show that search in action and show how every portion of those event logs or syslogs can be indexed and be able to search against, right?
Yep. And on the alert notifications piece, this platform is a push notification enabled platform, so it will notify you on all of your devices of critical, issues going on in the infrastructure. But another interesting thing from a developer perspective, if you're looking to tap into the power of the APIs from this platform, is there is a push alert mechanism built into OMS. So you can take, the NRT, the near real-time alerting and monitoring, and then push those alerts to any application that exists in your environment, just through APIs.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. Again, community-based automation. Again, this is a re-emphasis. I spoke about this prior. Leverage your PowerShell community. I highly encourage in this DevOps world that you really dive in after that IT operational excellence, create runbooks, create automated scripts to resolve your issues so that auto remediation can occur. So auto remediation, again, leverage automation from the cloud. Connect existing alerts to auto remediate. So we'd like to summarize what we've learned about log analytics today. So to recap, right? Our first chapter essentially was simple and unified experience, that single platform, leveraging the existing platforms you have, access anywhere, ubiquitous access, the ability to really make that learning curve more gradual for engineers that are onboarding, make the ability to train engineers more simple because they just have one interface to work out of. They have one place to look for all their applications to monitor and really drive that IT operational excellence. Not to mention the access from anywhere, which is my personal favorite. I like to be on the go. I'm usually going between my buildings to buildings all across my city, joining and collaborating with my different clients. And on the way, I would like to know, get alerts from my phone and be able to auto remediate things or potentially, manually remediate things or create communications to send to one of my engineers to say, hey, can we fix this while on the fly? And that access anywhere gives us the ability to do that. I can do that straight from my iOS or Android device. The second chapter, we covered gain immediate insights, right? That quick data collection, the trusted insight, the single source of the truth, managing petabytes of data and then creating custom views, depending on whether it's someone's a business owner or an application owner or an infrastructure owner, right? Gaining immediate insight is important. This is the data. This is democratizing that data. This is making it consumable and perusable in a way that makes sense to the right people versus the same amount of data shown to everybody, right? Or the same type of data shown to everybody. Let's splice that up. Let's make that consumable. And then fast troubleshoot and auto remediate. This is that DevOps portion that we like to talk about it. Let's not just allow a single interface to surface all your data and allow your IT, your IT staff to be able to consume that data. Let's not just gain immediate insights and pull that data together for business owners and application owners to see and infrastructure owners to see. Let's also identify root causes of issues. Let's also create automation in a DevOps world to automate all those fixes, or at least a large portion of common, issues that come up. Let's make sure that we're minimizing the amount of, laborious activity that goes into, maintaining an environment, right? That's the next gen. That's the DevOps world that we live in today, that everybody kind of needs to get with the times on.
Absolutely. So thank you, Aaron. And I actually wanted to just cover off on a few of the housekeeping items that we discussed in the beginning. So we're going to make this recording available to everyone. So we'll be sending out a link to that. And we will also be sending you information on our OMS Quick Start program, which is designed to, in a couple of days, build you an information architecture for monitoring and alerting, help you understand all the capabilities of the operation management suite, and get it up and running quickly in your environment. And it's kind of a white glove thing, so it's over the shoulder configuration so that you learn on the fly and are able to operate and start building out the logging and analytics infrastructure that we discussed today and start gaining some of these benefits more immediately. So I don't see any questions in the QA section of the app. I'm not sure if anyone's having trouble accessing it, but there is a question section on the GoToWebinar app where you can actually ask questions and we can answer them. And so we'll wait a few minutes for those questions. And if anyone has anything else that we haven't covered that you have questions about later, please send an email to the address that sent you the actual invite, and we'll respond. We've provided information. I believe the address that we provided was support@cloudscale.com, cloudscalecorp.com.